Around the Lens. This is In a Flash. I'm David J. Murphy.
And I'm Travis Keys.
And to continue the conversation or learn more about the stories we talk about today, go to aroundthelens.com. With that being said, let's get into the news. The top stories of 2020, according to PetaPixel. So PetaPixel, of course, is one of the biggest websites on the internet when it comes to talking about photo news. And the authors and website practitioners decide to categorize their top 10 stories of 2020. I think wildlife stories were the most notable. If you look at the entire list, there's like 3 or 4 that are wildlife specific, like best wildlife photos of 2020, or woman has interaction with bear. So there's a trend if you're looking for one. If you're looking to get like a new channel, wildlife or photography, there you go. Beside that, though, the story that most attracted my attention was number 3, which was about the Lady Gaga using a Shutterstock image on her Instagram watermark. It's kind of sad, honestly, that a multimillionaire can't pay the licensing fee for a stock image, and they have to use the one with the watermark on it. I honestly hate this kind of thing. Whenever I see someone use watermarked imagery in like a YouTube video or on their website or something like that, I actually contact that stock image house and essentially dime them out. It's totally unacceptable in my opinion. What are your thoughts about that story and others on this list, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny that you brought to my attention. I didn't kind of put 2 and 2 together until you said it, all the animal stories. And I'm thinking, well, COVID, maybe everybody's just out there shooting nature this year, and that's why we had so many animal stories. But to see the Lady Gaga one, yeah, of course you never want to see someone doing something like that. But I also tend to think someone that is that big, they probably don't even realize what's going on their Instagram or something like that, and it was one of their crew that did it, and she had to follow up on the back end, because I doubt she's posting to her own site every day and stuff like that. She has a whole team that does her social media and stuff like that. So unfortunately, it's usually the people behind the scenes making those poor decisions.
It could be, or it could also be just general ignorance of copyright law and whatnot. I mean, you wouldn't think that coming from someone who actually creates content, but people have generally just degraded the overall, cost or value of photography to such a degree that, just grabbing someone's image off a stock image house, what's the big deal? And the other thing, the way people justify it to themselves, or what I've heard, is that, oh, well, the watermark advertises the image house. So now Lady Gaga has just, advertised this image house to her millions of followers. So obviously they're getting value of it. Yeah, great. Okay, they are.
And the ultimate irony is that it's a post criticizing music pirating with a pirated photo, which is the most ironic thing of the whole thing.
It is, yeah. No, that's very, very silly. Were there any stories that kind of jumped out to you from this top 10 list that were like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember that one, or that one was pretty.
I definitely remember, obviously, through all the Reddits and stuff like that. I remember the looking at the video of the woman with her iPhone getting out and trying to take a picture of the bear, which you always kind of go like, it used to be like the train photos, like, oh no, another person on the train tracks, but now it's another stupid person falling off a cliff getting a selfie, or trying to pick a picture with a dangerous wildlife animal. It's like stupidity never ceases to amaze me.
Right, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I wonder what this year will bring us, what will bring out to us as sort of the stupidity of people and sort of nature.
I'm hoping it brings back more to photographing people and not nature. Although I love nature, but off the number 3, actually it was number 4, the PetaPixel, the Lady Gaga on the copyright. But that whole thing about that is another part of the news, which is very big. So, rewinding back to the Lady Gaga copyright thing, we've had a big major success as photographers in small claims for the CASE Act. And the CASE Act is something that a lot of our organizations in New York have been lobbying for, mine as well as APA, as well as ASMPA, NPAPA, all these PA people, photography associations have been fighting for this. And it just became law where now that you don't have to hire a huge copyright attorney, you can actually go to what is basically boils down to a small claims court for copyright for photographers. So you can go in, and if your art or art or photo has been misused, you can go to a small claims court, and there's, I think, 3 judges that are experts in copyright law that will help you in this, and you can file a claim, and I think it's up to $30,000 per the 2 incidents, and that's if it's copyrighted. It's $15,000 if it's non-copyrighted. But so make sure you always copyright your work. But at least there's people that that can't afford, that copyright lawyer can actually have a small claims court to go out and actually fight these, which is a huge thing for a lot of people that can't afford that. What do you think about, do you copyright your work?
I should, but I don't. Mostly just because it's most of the stuff I shoot nowadays, for my personal is for my personal use, and it's just mostly family stuff, so no one's really coming down and coming after my stuff. But if I was working professionally, if I was, doing more visual journalism and whatnot on a daily, regular basis, I would absolutely build the copywriting procedure into my workflow. I know that the Copyright Office has made it more difficult to copyright large batches of imagery. It used to be very simple. You basically just could send, I think, an unlimited number of photos, and they would just copyright them all at one time. But now I think it's more costly. You can't send as many at the same time. Honestly, not 100% on top of
the process is not as streamlined as it once was, and I think it's like 700 images per filing fee, and you have to fill out a proper form, and it's very complicated. And if you don't do it the right way, then they don't tell you it wasn't kicked back, but they keep the money. So you still need to do it, and there's some services online that will help you with it that are easy to use, but it's still worth it. Otherwise, Lady Gaga might use your image, and you might not get credit.
I would think, with like these stock image houses, especially for non-journalism type editorial content, that's easy to copyright. There's no, again, with when you're doing the photojournalism constantly on man on the street type stuff, there's a very short turnaround time from the time you shoot something to the time it gets published. So getting it copywritten in that amount of time might not be feasible, but eventually you get it copywritten. But something like this, it's a stock image house. It's been a setup image that's been shot in a studio. That's pretty easy to get copywritten. So yeah, I think this case, this new Case Act would have been perfect for something like this, because it's relatively easy to take someone like Lady Gaga to small claims court. You don't have to worry about hiring an army of lawyers, which they can do and you can't. So I'm excited for this new case. I did hear other sort of entities online talking about it as sort of a negative, saying basically oh, this affects independent news creators and stuff, and fair use and all that stuff. And it's well, I bet there are a lot of folks online who are misusing things under the guise of fair use. And now, if you're a photographer, at least you've got a course of action which you can take. This is a win for the little guy, in my opinion. So I'm glad to see it passed. And this is a great step in 2021. And there's a lot of awesome stuff coming out in 2021. A lot of new cameras, a lot of new gear. Very exciting. 2020 was pretty awesome, and despite everything horrible that happened with regard to COVID and lockdowns and everything, tech still moved forwards. Tech still came out, which was great because it kind of took all our minds off the collective horribleness that was 2020. But there's a lot of great stuff to look forward to in 2021. Sony has 2 new cameras that we keep hearing about, rumored. I don't know what or if you can talk about any of it, Travis, but the A7R4 could potentially be coming down the pipe, and then the A9 Mark II. Those are 2 massive cameras that'll definitely change the space. Canon has some massive megapixel cameras we talked about in the past coming out. Nikon, well, they're going to move their production to China, so there's that. What do you think we got coming up down the line for 2021, Travis?
It sounds like it's going to be a big, exciting year, and I know, unfortunately, I think it's kind of crazy that they're really focusing on these bigger megapixel sensors, which most people, even people in journalism, don't need that. And people are really kind of fighting that. It's like now the rumor mill has the Sony's going to incorporate their 102 megapixel sensor into one of these cameras, and it looks like maybe possibly 3 or 4 cameras that might come out from Sony. You said the A7 R4 and the A7 IV is also another one, and the A9 III. So there's three cameras there. The one I would say is probably most distant is the A7 R4. But the A9 III is probably the one that, and the A7 IV are the ones that'll probably come down on the pike first, and they're interesting. You have another. You wouldn't have expected it, but it seems like Canon did a really great job with their R5, the R5, and it seems like that for the first time Sony's going, oh, we need to kind of catch up to that one. It's a wild time, and I think next year we have CES coming up, which is going to be virtual online this year. So we're going to be able to actually all of us visit CES and kind of jump into that and see what's going on. That's coming up in about a week or so. Okay. And I think AI is going to be the big one this year. I think AI assistance and AI stuff is going to be. We're going to see lots of robotics and AI this year. I think that's going to be the big trends this year.
Yeah, I think that, and probably stuff related to how we're dealing with COVID, like new technology or whatnot that kind of responds to the way we're living. Maybe. We'll see what comes out. But I think you're going to see perhaps a shift in some of the stuff that is announced because it'll relate to what we're doing today. Because there's so much flash in the pan technology announced at CES. Some of it becomes vaporware and never comes out, but some of it does come out. So I think we'll see some of that. Again, responding to how we live our lives today. So maybe less focus on 8K TVs and more focus on perhaps machines that decontaminize the air. They clean up the air or something like that, or cleaning surfaces. I don't know. That would be interesting to see.
I know the one thing I'd like to see. I mean, Fuji's rumored to come out with another version of their GFX 100, which is going to be a little smaller and it'll probably be a little faster. But I'm actually excited about that. I think we're kind of running on the cusp of how much more can they do for the 35 mirrorless and stuff like that. They're amazing systems already, and now they're just little tweaks. Yeah. But medium format and that sensor, I think, is a realm that Fuji's kind of smart to go into, and no one else is really kind of doing that other than the big ones like Hasselblad or Phase One or something like that. So I think they're in a market that's really good, and the look of medium format is just beautiful. So I would love to see them to really make that a little more accessible for people and bring down the prices of some of the lenses, because it's quite expensive to get into the medium format lenses and all that.
Yeah, I have to play with a GFX 400 or 100, I should say. That thing.
Oh, the 100, yeah.
That thing. Woo, man, that's a massive camera. That's a big boy. That was fun to play with. I played that with that at an event in 2019, and it was just,
nice. I have the 50. I have the 50R GFX.
Yeah, it's a great camera, and I'm really excited to see what the next 8K camera will be. Obviously Canon sort of made the first step in that direction. It wasn't the perfect implementation of 8K. Obviously, we all joked and had fun about at their expense with regard to overheating.
But somebody's got to jump into it.
Yeah.
And that's what they did.
Yeah, I think Sony could, from the rumors, right? Sony with their A9 could be the one to be the next 8K monster and potentially solve the overheating issue. I'm excited to see if Panasonic responds. I doubt they're going to put any more investment in their Micro Four Thirds line, but this could be the year where they come out with a response to the R5 that perhaps they will take 8K, maybe do 8K 60. That's the next, obviously, step. 8K 120, 8K 240. It's just everything iterates over time. So if perhaps Panasonic surprises the world and comes out with like an 8K 60 Micro Four Thirds GH6 camera, then we'll all be talking about that. But yeah, definitely some great stuff coming out in the new year.
Yeah, speaking out, one of the new things that recently in one of the I saw in an article, there's a French startup that's coming out with a curved CMOS sensor for cameras, which is really interesting. I know back in 2014, Sony was playing with some curved sensors, but this French startup is saying that they're ready for mass production. And the interesting about that is the curved sensor mimics more the way our eye actually kind of deals with light and the way we see. So it's going to change the way the lenses are and actually probably be able to deal with a bunch of kind of new tech and the way they're creating. It's going to actually reduce the elements that are needed in a lens and maybe make it a lot better. And actually the way we're using these cameras, might be some better images. So that's kind of exciting.
Yeah, no, I mean, you combine that with these full frame mirrorless cameras that have the shorter. They don't need the mirror, right? So they have the shorter sort of flange distance, and they've been able to do so much innovation with that. I think you combine that with a curved sensor. I mean, who knows? You could have like a flat pancake lens that's 7200 or something crazy like that,
Yeah, I think it'll make for lighter and smaller and faster lenses, which is really exciting.
Yeah, no, I mean, anything to make the overall camera kit lighter, I'm all for it. Going from Micro Four Thirds back to full frame, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is what full frame cameras feel like again. So, yeah, if we can get the next generation, but I mean, that would probably be in the next. Probably won't see that for 3, 4, 5 years, right? I mean, this is just a new innovation that's coming out right now, or do you think we'll see this sooner than that? Maybe in phones.
I think it's yeah, that's a good point. In the phones as possible. You never know. I mean, if things take off, it could be in certainly by 2022. I think.
Yeah. Well, will we see it? Will we? Won't? We can talk about the Canon, them replacing the shutter button potentially. There was a recent patent filing that shows a Canon camera without a shutter button, and in its place instead is a touch sensor. This patent projects as having the shutter button free camera, and essentially what it would do is replace that area with a touch sensitive area that could be, you put haptic feedback, or you could do maybe moving around the sensor and actually move your focus point. There's a lot of potential options with a sort of buttonless camera. Obviously, the best of which would be the better waterproofing, right? Because there's a potential ingress of water at that shutter button point. What we've seen with Apple trying to reduce as many buttons as possible. It's that same thing, trying to essentially close in the camera, make it more water resistant and waterproof. And I'm not sure about this potential innovation. It feels like almost a little unnecessary to me. It's like, how about you just include a touch sensor in the button itself, But I don't know. What do you think about this, Travis? You think this is the future?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same with you. It almost feels like a new Coke kind of thing. It's like, why are you messing with the old Coke?
Yeah.
It's like, but I think there's something about, and maybe it's a nostalgic thing, and it's if you were born without a shutter button, you'd never even think twice about it. But for us, that tactile feeling of actually pressing that shutter button and feeling it on your finger and feeling it click and go down, that's part of the photography. And it's it's like it's kind of crazy to think of it not being there.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of being able to combine it into moving around my focus point. That's kind of actually really cool.
Yeah.
But they could do that, like you said, into the button that exists now. But we'll see. It's one of those things like until I actually try it, I'm not going to quite say, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Because I might love it. I might be like, oh, this is so much better. But if you don't have that tactile haptic feeling of pressing down, it's going to feel really weird.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do like the half. I'm so used to the half button press to focus, right? It's like, even with haptic feedbacks, like, I don't even know how that would work. That would be weird to me. I think you'd have to have some sort of pressure response capability, even in a button. I don't know. I don't know.
We might have to pick up one of the new Sony PlayStation 5s and see what they did with their controllers, because people are loving their controllers. So maybe there's something in that.
Well, those are actual buttons and triggers and whatnot.
But there's some haptic on the middle pad now. They say is quite
there?
Good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The haptic I know of most of all is like Macs, right? They remove the button, and that feels wonderful under your hands. But then again, you're only talking about the single button press,
which is pretty wild when they say the haptic on that middle pad, when you press it, it feels like it's clicking, but they're actually telling you it's not clicking, which kind of blew my mind, because I'm like, wait, it's not what?
No, it feels exactly like you're clicking. There's no difference. But anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crazy thing, and I think, it's always fun to see what they're going to do, and I'm happy to do it. And we'll see what happens with it. I know in another story, you're a drone person like I'm a drone person. It seems that DJI is having some some issues with the U.S. and found itself on the economic blacklist, which means we're not allowed to kind of send them parts and kind of stuff like that.
Really?
And
Wow.
We'll see if prices go up on these, and the scarcity comes up. I don't know what's going to happen, and it's kind of up in the air, and it kind of goes up and down. And but we certainly know that there's been some foul play in terms of the Chinese companies kind of throwing in stuff that spies on us, and from TVs to drones. So what do you think about that? I know it first started with military banned from using any DJI or China drone products, and now it's kind of seemed to have gone a little further. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's sad, really, because I think DJI makes such great drones. It's like we're missing out. We're going to maybe miss out potentially on future innovations from them in the drone marketplace, and really none of the other companies that make drones can touch them with regard to the level of quality that they produce. So it's sad, But on the other hand, China does have some very aggressive stances on technology and the way that companies who work in China have to essentially kowtow to the Chinese government with regard to their, essentially giving them information. I mean, the Communist Party is doing this to themselves by essentially saying every technology company, per their charter or their constitution or whatever, is essentially beholden to the Chinese government. So when you make that declaration, the company, DJI, can say, "Oh no, we're not part of the Communist Party. We don't do this." It doesn't matter because per China's governing laws, all technology companies, all companies are beholden to them, and you can say up and down every day we don't work with them, and we're clear and transparent. But at the end of the day, the government can come in and see your records and do whatever they want. And if you have surveillance, if every single DJI camera has been sending, their footage back to the home server, the Chinese government can look at that. So that's something that the U.S. has to take into account when considering if they're going to buy equipment from China or equipment from DJI. Now, for you and me and the average droner who's going out and just getting cool footage from their vacation in Hawaii or something like that, it doesn't matter, right? Hey, we'd be happy for more viewers. But, for government purposes, for, official things where, there may be more sensitive documentation of areas or things, you kind of have to be more cognizant of that. But I am glad there are other alternatives. This story you brought up did list those. So Parrot, I think, is pretty cool, and some of the other ones. So glad to see those are out there.
Yeah. There's a couple of interesting drones out there. So hopefully they pick up the mantle. But we'll see. For now, they are available, and you can still get them. But we'll see how they affect as it.
Yeah, hopefully we won't see the next generation going down the line. But, talking about Chinese manufacturing, Nikon is halting their camera production in Japan. What's with that, Travis?
Well, that's kind of wild. I mean, here's a company that, it has, prided itself in being a camera company that's for its inception has produced its cameras in Japan, and now to stay competitive, they're having some problems. They're not as diverse as say Canon is, that makes from printers to medical equipment and stuff like that. These other companies, so when they get hurt in the camera market, they really get hurt. So I think to stay competitive, they finally said we're closing down our Japanese factories, and we're not going to produce the cameras here anymore. And they're moving to exclusively make them in Thailand, so that they'll be making these cameras in Thailand. And I know some people say, "Oh, this is the end of Nikon," or thing. I don't think it's the end. And certainly, we know 5 million other companies from Apple that all source their products being made in foreign countries. And so people are saying maybe the standards will go down because they're not as rigid as Japan and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, obviously, there's already currently Nikon cameras that have been made in Thailand, and people have been using them with no problem. So we'll see what happens. But I think it's sad that a company's heritage, and I forget how many years. I think it's 70 years that they've been making them in Japan, and then finally that has to close down. That's sad.
It is, and with regard to the quality production, I think we so much of what we produce is manufactured in China, and you're not hearing about massive, horrible production issues like of the iPhone or our video game systems. I think that kind of concept is a little bit overblown. I think Nikon will be just fine with their equipment. But it is sad. It is sad when something that's been so strongly tied, nationally tied to a production goes overseas. But it's the same thing we've seen in America. So many American brands and products went overseas when it was able to because of the just cheaper manufacturing capability and process. So. But we'll see how this pans out in Nikon's future. Obviously, they have a lot of other issues going on with their cameras and production. But if we start seeing, next year and the year after that, more cameras are coming up with flaws or faults, we'll know why.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Obviously, Nikon's very concerned of restructuring and their bottom end.
Yeah.
So hopefully that we'll see that they survive and keep pushing out. There's a lot of people that love and shoot Nikon, so we'd hate to see them have to switch to another great company like Sony
or Canon
or Canon
or Panasonic or Fuji
or Panasonic. Yeah,
but definitely not Olympus.
I think
forget Olympus. No,
I know. Poor Olympus too. Yep.
Yeah, that's another company that's been falling on hard times.
Yeah.
No, I mean, in the general larger aspect of the economy, hopefully things improve now that the vaccine is out and being distributed. I don't know. Do you know when you might be getting the vaccine yourself, Travis? Is that on your roadmap?
It seems the rollout here just does not seem like it's anytime close in the future. Certainly, people that you should be getting it aren't getting it right now. So I'm hoping that with the new administration we figure out how to get people the vaccine. I think it would be great to get it all out to the first responders and the health people and everybody at high risk right now. I know elderly people are having a tough time even trying to figure out how they can get it, and the wait list now are till February, March. So even if you're above that 70 range, it's almost impossible to figure out how you're going to get vaccinated. Yeah. And it's been very kind of tough. And I know they originally said they wanted to get 20 million people vaccinated by 1st of January, and looked like it was only 2 or 3 million that got vaccinated. So hopefully we can figure this out and get it out to people and really raise I don't want to say herd immunity because it's going to take forever to get that, but hopefully we can get it out there and resume to some sort of normalcy quickly, because I'm missing going out and shooting people in events and travel and stuff like that. So I'm hoping at some point later this year we get back to some sense of normalcy, because I miss it.
Yeah, no, me too. I mean, we're going back to the States this summer, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get vaccinated around the February, March time frame. But, we'll see about that. That's all based on the amount of doses that we get out here in Korea. And, my biggest thing is I think we'll start to see a slight return to normal this summer as more and more people get vaccinated. I'm hopeful that, we can get that kind of 1 million doses a day, and, there'll be some progress. But I don't really see a true return to a semblance of normalcy until 2022 at the earliest. So
it seems like that might be the case.
That's why I got my HBO Max subscription, so I can watch all the first run movies as they come out.
Right.
Despite their quality.
I was very disappointed with Wonder Woman 84.
I looked at it as the silly, goofy superhero movie it was. So it wasn't exactly like high art cinema. I wasn't expecting much, and it met my expectations. So
I was really expecting nothing, and I was disappointed.
Yeah, indeed. All right.
But I think it's going to be an exciting year, a very exciting year. I think we're going to have some fun cameras coming out and a lot to talk about, and I think it should be really fun.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting year of this show and in a flash.
Yeah.
So please keep on tuning in each week and let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you like the topics we're talking about. Let us know if there are topics we should be talking about. And let us know your opinions on the topics we talked about on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and all that, which you can again find on AroundTheLens.com. Travis, anything else to add before we sign off?
No, I'm looking forward to what we discuss next week, which, there's always new news. So
we'll see you on the next episode. This has been Around the Lens in the Flash. I'm David J. Murphy.
And I'm Travis Keys.
And we're bouncing.